Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel.
Well, we're going to take a break from our movie breakdowns for a little bit here.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I was looking at the calendar, and as of this
Mm-hmm.
recording, it's the beginning of April
Yep.
2023,
Yep.
and the first quarter of the year has already passed by, January, February, March.
Yep.
And we've talked about DC Studios a little bit,
Mhm.
but there's some news that's come out. A new trailer dropped for a movie that's coming out, and um, a movie has come out since we last talked about DC Studios, talking about Shazam: Fury of the Gods. So I figured we have a few things to talk about here. We're DC guys. We're not gonna try to, flood our listeners with this information too much, but I figured let's see after the first quarter here, let's see what we can talk about here. So
Yeah, it was we spaced it out. I mean, we
yeah,
spaced
yeah,
it out, and like you said, there's been quite a few things that have been talked about that
right.
people have kind of shared some information, some rumors, some gossip, some movie releases, some data, and everything else. So yeah, there's some stuff for us to talk about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, don't get me wrong. We really enjoy doing these movie breakdowns. We've been having a great
Oh yeah.
time. We've
Oh
been
yeah.
enjoying the feedback from everybody. Like we love not just talking about movies, but we love talking about the movies themselves.
Yeah.
Not just movies as a genre, but talking about movies themselves, breaking them down, actors, performances, directors, the whole deal. So,
I get so excited because like I'm like, oh, we get to watch a movie that we
right,
enjoy. You know what I mean? I'm
right,
like, oh, what are we doing this week? Oh, we're gonna do this one.
right.
Great! I can't wait to watch
Yeah,
it again.
it's a really cool process because we're busy taking notes while we're watching the movie,
Yep.
and then we both bring we don't tell each other what we're gonna do. We both bring our notes together, and then
Mhm.
we do our breakdown. So that's pretty cool. So before we get started, I wanted to let you folks know to please give us a subscribe on YouTube. We are at the Panel Bros. We appreciate those of you that are subscribing right now. We appreciate those of you that are viewing right now. But if you are viewing and you are not currently subscribing, please do us a favor and click that subscribe button in the lower left hand corner if you are on YouTube. Much
Oh
appreciated.
yeah.
It would help spread the word about the Panel Bros.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're going to talk about DC Studios,
Yep.
and as I said, it's as of this recording, it's April 2023. And the first thing of note here is the Penguin Show. And
Yeah.
this is starring Colin Farrell. It is going to be on HBO Max. It's being headed up by Matt Reeves, the director of The Batman, and it's slated for 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that the filming should stop by the summer of 2023, July. I
Okay.
read so. Uh, I'm excited. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. We've got some information. We're seeing some shots of Farrell in the suit. We're finding out more things about the plot, people coming on and such. We're hearing some things about Robert Pattinson. So, uh,
Yep.
you were really excited when you heard about this show because I know you enjoyed Farrell's performance in the Batman.
Yes.
So,
I
share your
thought I
thoughts.
thought I thought he was terrific in it. I love the practical makeup and the suit that they put on him. And because to a lot of people, what was so cool is that for many people, if you didn't tell them that it was Colin Farrell, they had no idea.
Right.
And I had conversations with maybe a handful of people where I would mention Colin Farrell, and they're like, "Where was Colin Farrell in the Batman?" I was like, "He
Right.
was Penguin." And they're like, "That was him?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Did he gain weight?" I was like, "He's got makeup and prosthetics and everything else." So I was excited for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a huge Colin Farrell fan. I think he's a terrific actor. I like that he's getting his flowers, Oscar nominations, etc. And he was always very excited when he talked about the Batman. I remember him saying that the Batman was just a beautiful movie, and I got so excited just
Right.
based off of what he said, and seeing his role as the Penguin was great. He was entertaining, he was fun, and so when they announced the show, I got excited too. And because we get to explore more about that character and that world of Gotham that Matt Reeves has designed. So I'm like, okay, cool. We got to see it from Batman's perspective, but now we get to see it from the underbelly of the Penguin and see what kind of dealings he's dealing with and whatnot. And I won't lie, there was a point in time where I wasn't sure the show was going to happen. You know, there
Right.
was a lot of changes happening and whatnot. And I was like, hey, man, unless we see those cameras rolling, and even today, that doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. I
Right.
was a little nervous, but I'm more confident now. I think they've shown us that no, this show is coming. HBO Max relatively soon. You brought up Pattinson, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. I was like, are we going to see Pattinson? Now I'm curious if we're going to see the Batman or if we're going to see a Bruce Wayne cameo.
Right.
That's what I want to know.
Anytime we get more of Gotham City, I'm in. Uh,
Mhm.
as you know, and as the listeners know by now, Batman is my favorite superhero. So
Oh yeah.
anytime there's a situation where we can get more of Gotham City, I'm in for it. I watched the entire run of Gotham when it was on Fox,
Oh yeah.
so some
Yeah.
people stopped watching. I didn't. I stayed until the very end.
I went in and out, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I would watch. I called it Got Ham. I was like, oh, it's
Right,
Got
right,
Ham is on. I'd watch for a
right.
few seasons. I'd fall off. I'd get back on. I'd fall off. They'd be like, last season. All right, I got to get back on. You
Yeah,
know what
it
I mean?
was it was it was sometimes it was really campy, sometimes it was really dark. There was
Yeah,
no
yeah.
there was no in between. It was either one way or the other. But uh I'm I'm interested to see what Reeves does with this show. Like you, when James Gunn got announced as heading up DC Studios and the new DCU, it was just like, well, they want a cohesive universe, and
Hmm.
the Batman Reeves verse is not going to have anything to do with the DCU.
Mm-mm.
So, or the DCEU at the time, now known as the DCU. So it was just like, okay, well, is the Batman going to be a one and done movie? We didn't know at the time.
I thought I was this close
Yeah,
to being like it's one and done because again, James had announced like a cohesive universe. So I was like, well,
right.
they're not gonna have two universes if he's explaining cohesive, but they figured it out. And if memory serves me correctly, let me know if I'm wrong. Was this show originally the Gotham City PD show they had been rumoring for a while? I know they mentioned that they wanted to do a Gotham City PD show, and
Yes,
then they were like, "Oh, that's not really happening, but we're doing Penguin now."
right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I'm curious what that show would have been like if it was going to be closer to what Gotham was. And then after the Batman Collins did such a
Well,
great job, they were like, "Oh, let's just follow him."
well, let's just put it out there. Jeffrey Wright would have been the lead.
Yep, yep, yep.
And that sounds exciting to me.
I loved him as Gordon.
Right.
So I'm assuming have they announced that he's going to be appearing in the show? I
We have
can't.
no idea, but I imagine there's a lot of
Yeah,
actors from the Batman that we may see at least once. If,
yeah.
you
If
know,
if you got Pattinson for at least a cameo or an
yeah,
episode, I can't see you not getting Jeffrey as Gordon and whatnot.
yeah. It's an interesting time right now where before it was kind of hard to picture movie actors making cameos in the shows or TV show actors making cameos in the movies, but things have changed, and
Things
now
have
now
changed.
we're seeing things a little bit more.
I
So
will. It reminds me. I think the biggest shock to me was Ezra Miller in the CW Flash.
yeah,
Like that was when he did that, I was like, okay, all bets are off the table. You can kind of have these actors because I think Marvel had done it for a while, but they never brought in the mainstay. It was never the leads. Like they
no,
would have Lady Sif make a cameo in a
right.
television show, or maybe even Nick Fury and
Fury
whatnot.
did,
But you
yeah,
never had no Captain America, no Thor, nothing like that. So to see Ezra Miller as the Flash, I was like, oh, DC's like, oh, we'll do it with anybody. So the idea that they're like, hey, Pattinson could appear or Pattinson will appear, that's exciting, Because I'm
yeah.
like,
To,
what if
to
it's
me,
what if
that makes me want to watch the show because it's like, oh,
yeah,
Batman's going to be on the show. Well, not Batman,
yeah,
but Bruce Wayne's going to be on the show, and not that it needs to add some legitimacy to the show, but it's a way to get your viewers
yeah.
interested. So I think that that's cool. They didn't announce a release date, but we're looking at sometime in 2024,
Hmm.
and so that's as far as the Penguin show goes. And just by the way, like if it was going to be Gotham City Police Department, the thought of just seeing the crimes that are being committed in the city and the thought of, well, hey, we might get to see more villains. That's
Hmm.
what was exciting to me about Gotham City PD. But who knows? Maybe we can do that in the Penguin show. we'll see what happens. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, if they're ballsy, I don't know if they're gonna do it,
yeah,
but I like imagine them introducing
right,
one of the new rogues, one of the new villains that
yeah,
we might see in a potential future film, like even just an idea or an inkling of a
right,
character. I wondered if they do it or not.
yeah. Batman's, in my opinion, has got the best rogues gallery. Call me biased, but
Amazing rogues
he's
gallery.
got a great rogues gallery, so that would be cool. This brings us to our next note here. So we're talking about the Batman 2.
Mhm.
It currently has a release date scheduled for October of 2025,
Yep.
and we haven't found out much besides that release date time frame. But a little bit of information came out that there's a chance Clayface might be in the movie. It's a rumor,
Mhm.
but the timing of this rumor is interesting because director Mike Flanagan wanted to do a Clayface solo movie. So this
He
would
did.
all this would all still be in the Elseworlds category for DC Studios, not the main DCU timeline, but it would be another Elseworlds movie, but set in the Reeves verse. Well,
Mhm.
Flanagan wanted a standalone. That's
Yes,
what he
he
right.
wanted a standalone horror movie
Yeah.
with Clayface, and as
Yeah.
soon as he said that, I was like, "Guys, give him the money,
Right.
let him make it." I'm a huge Mike Flanagan fan, as you know, and
Yes.
horror, and to do Clayface in a horror aspect, I was like, "Come on, man, let's." There's been definitely for those who remember Batman the animated series, there's some horror elements with Clayface and some of those really freakish scenes and whatnot. So to have a whole movie and
Right.
that type of tone of atmosphere would have been really cool. But continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're looking at a situation where Flanagan says that he still wants to do it.
Mhm.
Reeves, I don't know if he confirmed that this is true or not. It's still a rumor. It's still a rumor
Yeah,
that Reeves wants to do it. I mean, best case scenario, okay, they give Flanagan the green light and he still does it, but it's set in the Batman verse, the Reeves
yeah,
verse.
yeah,
And then if Matt Reeves wanted to do something else, fine. And if Flanagan doesn't get to do it, then it'll just be in the Batman 2. I'd be a little disappointed because I first heard the idea from Flanagan, and
yeah.
I'm not
I
I'm
kind of
not
want it.
I'm not doubting Matt Reeves, and um, well, we'll get into that in a second here, but I'm not doubting that he would have a good time with that character based upon what we've already seen him do with Penguin, Catwoman, and Riddler. His version of Clayface, like, what would he do? Are you
I had a theory
are
about
you
what
going
he
like
would
C
do.
you're not using CGI? No, not in that.
I I was because like to be honest with you, the idea of Clayface being in the Matt Reeves universe, that
Yeah,
alone made me go, "How?"
right.
Because Matt Reeves feels very grounded. It's very, very, very grounded. So my initial thought when they said the possible villain in the Batman 2 would be Clayface, I was like, "Oh, I wonder if he's going to have a storm of prosthetic where he can just change his appearance." Think almost like Mission Impossible,
Yeah,
where they would put those fake masks on,
it's a good one.
they would make fake faces in order to look like different people, obviously with Tom Cruise and everything else. So I'm like, oh, is that what this is going to be? Like, is he going to make Clayface this scientist who has this this technology where he can change the appearance of his face, almost like Dark Man, where he can
There we
create
go.
this face that I was like, is that going to be his version? Because I can't. I mean, I'm not saying he won't. I didn't picture Clayface as the villain that Matt Reeves would want to touch. I was like, oh no, he probably wants to keep everything. We had Riddler.
Right,
They teased the Joker. These are very human characters. I know
right,
people have mentioned like, oh, they would love to have Freeze.
right,
They would love to have Scarecrow,
right,
things of that nature. I did not expect. And again, like you said, it's merely speculation. It's a rumor at
right.
this point. But I don't know how he would do it. I don't know. That's my theory. Is like maybe it's a technology because I can't see him going full monster Clayface the way
Right.
that I could totally see Flanagan doing it.
I saw other people come up like Two-Face is always an option because he's just a person with a scarred half of his
Mhm,
body, and we can explore that relationship between Dent and Bruce Wayne.
mhm.
Um, I saw a rumor about Thomas Elliot, Hush, and
Yeah.
he's a person, but just with a costume, and
Mhm.
if you wanted to explore that, that would be a really cool idea too. Now, lots of rumors. We don't know anything right now. They're
No,
just
no.
you know, I think Reeves is still writing it, if I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
mistaken.
Even and I have the tweet. I pulled it up because I wanted to make sure. The day that news broke, a lot of people started tagging Mike Flanagan, like, "Hey, what's going on with
Oh, there
Clayface?
we go,
Is
yeah.
anything?" So he tweeted in response. He wrote respond Clayface. He goes, "The news today is entirely speculative. When or if something like that ever becomes real, I promise I will tell you guys.
There we go.
So it's really cool that he was like, hey guys, there's a lot of speculation right now, and he's getting tagged left and right. He's like, hey, and I appreciate him as a director and as a filmmaker saying, if anything happens, I will tell you. So that's pretty much just his involvement. The Matt Reeves Clayface is could still happen. He's merely responding to the idea of like his movie, his ideas,
Right.
and anybody running with the idea of like, oh, well, if he's going to be into Batman 2, that means Mike Flanagan is going to do the movie, right? And he's like, yeah, guys,
Right.
I'll tell you if
Let's
something
hold
happens,
off.
okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll tell you.
exactly. Yeah, so I mean that's the one thing that I can take away from the Reeves versus continuing is we have a chance to see just different iterations of all these
Mhm.
different rogues and villains. So that'll be interesting to see. I wanted to give you that Mike Flanagan shout out though. So
I love Mike. Look, I love
yeah,
Mike, and I remember we talked about it. I don't know who shared it first, but I remember us discussing it because Mike Flanagan was very open. This is we've had a few directors speak up when it comes to the DCU or DC
right,
Comics, where they say, "Hey, I want to do that character." You
right,
know, it's like I want to do that. And Mike Flanagan was like, "I want to do Clayface as a horror movie." And as soon as he said that, especially after the success of Joker doing like its Black Label thing, I was like, there's no reason why we can't do a standalone Clayface in a horror world with Mike Flanagan directed. I'm like, he's going to give us something emotional, something powerful, and something scary. And I
right.
was like, what more could you want?
Yeah, for those of you that are unfamiliar, The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass. um, I didn't see the new one. You saw the new one,
Yes. Oh God. Let
Netflix.
let's. I'm gonna find it right now because I have to give it a shout out. I feel like it's something club. It's
Yeah,
something club. Um, and that one was oh boy, that one hurt. That one hurt. It was the Midnight Club.
the nightclub. There we go.
Midnight Club. Midnight Mask. Midnight Mask ruined
Right.
me. Just ruined me. But
Did
yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of that guy.
did Doctor Sleep, the sequel to The Shining? I mean, all right, guys, come on, let's go. You know,
Like
so
he's one of those guys that you can feel his passion in his work. So again, for him to want to touch anyone in DC, I'll give him anybody. You know what I mean? He could tell
yeah,
me I want to do a Poison Ivy movie. I'm like, let him have it. I want to do Two-Face, let him have it. You know, but when
right,
he said Clayface, that was great because I'm like, oh, he can do a lot of really good horror stuff with that.
right.
So whether it's in a Mike Flanagan film or a Matt Reeves film, I mean, I'll take both, but I feel like they would both approach it very, very differently.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so we're still going to be here in the Elseworlds portion of DC Studios, but a different universe, separate from the Reeves verse. We are
Yeah,
in the the Jokerverse, Todd Phillips. so
Jokerverse.
so
We're in the JCU right now, the Joker Cinematic Universe.
so we have Joker Folie à Deux.
I
and
love the title, Joker Folie à Deux. I love it.
yeah,
I don't know why.
it's cool. Um, that's scheduled for October of 2024.
Mhm.
So the thing that we need to address here, if you could bring those screenshots up that I sent you,
Oh yeah,
is that for those of you that don't know, Lady Gaga is playing Harley Quinn.
bro, and
And
she looks good, man. She looks good.
we're getting pictures of her not even in the makeup and she looks good. And then now we're getting pictures of her in the makeup. So I'm gonna put this up here for folks to see.
Mhm.
Wh- the first thing we're gonna look at here is the Gotham Examiner, and it says "Crazy in Love." It says Joker has a new love. You see Joaquin Phoenix there, and you see Gaga with her Arkham State Hospital, Harleen Francis Quinzel. So we don't know if they're going to explore if she was his doctor or if he just met her in there. We don't know yet.
Mm-mm.
So um so what are your thoughts from this initial image that we first saw before we actually saw her
It
later on?
was oh
So
man, this first image was so cool because they put her side by side in the shot, right? Like she's side by side with Joker in the newspaper
right,
where he's kind of got that smile and she has a smile that is just it's sadistic.
right,
Oh man, like she's channeling something. And like even without the makeup, like usually, when you have certain characters, the makeup will help, right? Like it helps express and get certain emotions across. Lady Gaga just has this look that feels so Harley. You know what I mean? Like I love Margot Robbie's Harley. I think she's
Oh, yes.
an amazing Harley. This feels like a different Harley. You know what I mean? Like this feels like a Harley that is in that sadistic phase. The Harley that we met through Margot was very, she was very fun, she was pop, you know what I mean? This one feels very almost like Joker-esque in a sense where she's like enjoying the misery of others and whatnot. I don't know what led to this photo. None of us do. We just know
Right.
that she's there in an Arkham State Asylum. We don't know what route they're going to take. We don't know if she's going to be another patient, because Todd Phillips can play the game a little bit. He made a lot of changes with his version of Joker, so I would not be surprised if he makes a little change here. Like she might not be a psychiatrist, she could be another prisoner, she could be someone who was I don't know, a fan from the outside world who
Yeah.
started doing like replicating what he was doing, following his message, even though he said he didn't have a message to tell. Like, I don't know, but this initial shot is great. I think Lady Gaga's gonna do great. Obviously, she's a terrific actor, and just crazy in love. I love the title. I love the newspaper shot. I don't know too much, but based on what we're seeing in this photo, we've seen some leaked videos on set. This feels like that moment where she's approaching what seems to be a courthouse. No idea what's happening in that sequence, obviously, because we know nothing. But it's very, very, very interesting to see this layout the way that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us to our next shot here that I'm sharing with everybody. Um, so we're not looking at the newspaper anymore. We're looking at the shot of her next to Phoenix, and
Mm-hmm.
mind you, folks, these were the only two I felt comfortable sharing because if there's so much out there where it's pretty much in spoiler
Yeah.
territory. Like you're seeing sequences, you're seeing her laugh, you're seeing them in certain locations that are
Mm-hmm.
familiar. So, but I felt okay sharing this because a lot of the trades shared this too. Um, we see some makeup on her, and we see him too. I can't tell if it's in between shots or not, in between shooting, but um she looks great. Here you can't really see it here, but she looks physically different.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to see her, well, she performed at the Oscars and you could just see
Mm-hmm.
in her face that she's gone through a little bit of a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And
She was definitely in Harley Quinn mode. Like you could
yeah.
feel it. Like she was in a similar way where Joaquin went into Joker mode. You can see her kind of shifting and into that Harley mode.
Yeah, absolutely. So here they are, and I mean, we've seen the sequence, and I don't know how much we can say without giving it away, but I will say this. This has me a little bit more excited. Not that I wasn't
Mhm,
excited before. Um, like you, I have a lot of respect for Lady Gaga as a musician, but
mhm.
the way she just seamlessly transitioned into acting and how she's such a fearless performer on
Yeah.
stage as a musician. So it wasn't that surprising when I saw how good of an actor she was. I saw her on American Horror Story. She won a Golden Globe for that.
Mhm.
She was nominated for an Oscar for uh, A Star Is Born. So she's she can act.
She can, and like you said, I think for years we've been watching her performances, and she does performance pieces. Like she is one of those people that when you watch, you're gonna get much more than just a generic person on stage singing. Like she's telling a story. She's telling a story physically with her body, verbally with her words, her lyrics, and whatnot. So yeah, the transition from her to go into acting didn't seem too far fetched. She's a brilliant performer on stage, and she's a brilliant performer on camera. And this is another one of those images that when I look at, I get excited because again, I don't know much about what's going on. Like the person in me who has seen Joker 1 is like, hey, in Joker 1, he's in an asylum. So when we see him in this particular shot, he's outside with her, he's in a business suit, he's got
Right.
somewhat of makeup on. So I'm like, is this real? You know what I mean? I'm like, is this real? Is this a a fake reality that she's creating the same way that he created in the first movie? Or are we going to follow those beats as well? We don't know anything about the sequences, and we don't know anything about the movie just yet. And I hope that they can keep it very tight lipped, because I don't want to know and I don't want to be spoiled. Um, because like you said, everything's hitting the internet. Like, you can't go on TikTok without seeing scenes from this movie. You can't go on Twitter without seeing scenes from this
Right.
movie. So we're trying to be as safe as possible, so that way we can all be surprised when like the first trailer drops, the first teaser, and when we get to see the movie ultimately. But based off this photo, it's very cool. You see her, she's got the makeup on. It looks like she's also got some sort of a business jacket, if you will. And again, Joker in a business suit. This isn't the suit that he wore in the first movie, where he was kind of growing and coming into himself, where it was about the bright colors and being expressive. This is a business suit.
Right.
So I'm like, is this a reality where they're husband and wife, and he's
Right.
like going to work? Like, what is this? I don't know what this scenario is, but it's exciting. I'm curious if she's gonna have a different makeup looks throughout the film. I'm wondering if we're gonna see the progression like he did, where we essentially saw his makeup change throughout the movie until he gets his final look. Or are we gonna get that with her? Is this gonna be her final look, or is this just a first look? And again, what I love so far is that we don't know, and
Right.
that makes this exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scenario that they could have broken out.
Mhm.
And I mean, I hope they don't do a dream sequence situation on us, like where it's like, oh, it didn't really happen. That would be disappointed, if they went that route. Um, well, we know that it's a musical, or there will be musical aspects to it. So
That's where I think some of the fantasy elements are gonna be.
yeah,
I don't think they're gonna pull the rug under us like they did from Joker 1, but I do think there might be some scenes. Actually, they did one in Birds of Prey when Margot went into that musical number.
right,
I think they might do something like that, where we
yeah,
might see one or two
yeah.
musical
I
numbers.
mean, technically speaking, if they go that route, the whole movie can take place in Arkham.
Mhm.
But when they
Mm,
share stories or go into those sequences, we get the zoom out and we get to see that stuff,
yeah.
And
Interest
instead of trying to fool us into saying, "Oh, this really happened," it could be like, "Oh, no, this is them exploring their relationship." And then here we go, you end the movie with them actually breaking out.
Wow. Imagine, I didn't think about that. Imagine the
Yeah,
whole movie is in Arkham
yeah.
Asylum. Like, the whole movie is in I didn't consider that, because I see, again, you see these set photos and they're outside. So you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, do they get out? Are they going, like, is she fighting for him in court? Is this a fantasy?" Like,
right.
we don't know anything. So, wow, that'd be really interesting if the whole movie took place
Yeah.
in Arkham
I just
Asylum,
I
and
just
at the very end.
yeah. I just feel the whole "it was all a dream" that's been so overdone, and
Yeah, no, we can't
I
do
I
that.
feel like he's established himself enough with the last one that he won't do that to us, so
No, no, and you gotta do, and again, just securing Joaquin Phoenix
yeah.
to come back for a sequel, it
Oh
had to
my
be something
goodness.
special, because Joaquin doesn't do that, my boy.
No.
Like that's why I was one of those people when they were talking about, oh, he's thinking Joker 2. I'm like, that's false. There's no way. I'm like, he's that's not the type of actor that Joaquin Phoenix is. He's not interested in sequels. He turned down other movies because he didn't want to be attached to sequels.
They wanted him for Doctor Strange, and he said no because it
Nope.
would tie him
It
down.
would tie him up to multiple films.
Yeah,
So again, when they're like Joker 2, I'm like, there's no way. And then I watched an interview with him, and someone asked him, and Joaquin, just being Joaquin, very soft spoken, saying, I love the character, and if they got more, I would love. And I was like, whoa, 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 really, really? And then
yeah,
they made the announcement, and I was like, you have to have something special to secure him for another movie,
yeah.
because he wouldn't do it just to do it. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's interested in like box office and whatnot. So like you got him with something special.
And I believe at his Oscar acceptance speech, he gave a nod to Heath Ledger because they were friends,
Yep.
and I think he almost said if not for his friend doing it, he wouldn't have been interested in doing it, something like that, where
Hmm.
his friend Heath Ledger inspired him to do this, um, in death, so to speak,
Yeah.
and so that was pretty cool that he did that.
It's
So,
it's what made that win. It's another reason why that win was so special,
yeah,
because his late friend Heath won it for Joker, and now he won it for the same role. And
yeah,
there's something cathartic about that. It's
yeah,
it's very sweet.
yeah, so I feel like this is a Ricardo episode today because
This is I love it. This is me. This is me.
now we're going to talk about Blue Beetle,
Blue Beetle,
a
bro.
Hispanic superhero, and
Let me tell you.
Ricardo is Hispanic. So
Let me tell you, the family in this trailer is my family. Like, it's one of those things that's why I think culture is so important and representation is so important, because you see yourself. So, like, there's moments in that trailer where I was like, oh, that's my mom, that's my tia, that's my tío, that's my dad, that's my, like, I was like, oh, I feel it. But yeah, the Blue Beetle dropped, man. The Blue Beetle
right.
trailer dropped. What were you, did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the trailer? Did you enjoy it? Did you
It
enjoy it?
surprised me.
Yeah, yeah.
It surprised me because I'm just kind of like in a situation where I'm trying to temper my expectations with
Same.
with the DCU proper, because we have and we're gonna get to that today with the Flash. We have a
Mhm.
quote unquote reboot coming up, so
Yep.
I'm not trying to get too emotionally invested in things, So I saw the trailer. We knew, and I mean, credit where credit is due. They nixed the Batgirl movie,
They did.
so, for whatever reason, either it was too tied up to the old DCEU, or they didn't like it, or budget reasons. They give a variety of reasons, why it didn't move forward. So it's like, well, why would you move forward with Blue Beetle? Like, what's the difference between Blue Beetle and Batgirl?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two? And so I saw, and I mean, the CGI looks great. The transformation looks awesome.
It
Uh,
yeah.
and I've seen him in the animated shows and such, but to see that on live action, that was really cool.
I appreciate it. One, I cannot stress how in love I am with the idea that the suit is practical. It is a practical suit from head to toe, and I love that about it. Obviously, they're doing some work digitally with the eyes and, effects for flight and whatnot, but it's a practical suit, and I absolutely adore it. But like you, I was nervous because, with the cancellation of Batgirl, and it wasn't just us. There was a lot of people online and on the community that were like, "Hey, what does this mean for Blue Beetle? What does this mean for Blue Beetle?" And then when they announced, "Hey, Blue Beetle is coming, don't worry," there's still that hesitation of like, okay, like, am I going to get really attached to this? Am I going to enjoy this, only for us to not be sure if it's going to continue? We're hearing speculation, obviously, that like anything else, any other property, if the money is, if the movie is successful financially, there's no reason why it can't stay. There's been chatter online, a couple directors liking certain tweets and whatnot, saying, they hope that Blue Beetle is in the new DCU, and it seems
Right.
that, some of these tweets are kind of dictating that it will, but anything can change. But I love the trailer. It was one of my favorite things about DC, and we've talked about this too, is I love the variety in DC comics. I love the variety in the films. I like films that can be darker, more mature, but then I like films that are family friendly and light. Like, I love Shazam 1, I love Man of Steel, and then I can love Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition, and they all feel different. You know what I mean? They all feel like their
Right.
own thing. And Blue Beetle feels fun. Like, I was like, this feels fun. I love the design. I love the practicality to it. I love the cast. You got George Lopez in there playing the crazy uncle with the long goatee and the long
Yeah.
hair, and I'm like, oh, that's my deal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, there's a lot to take away.
He said something too that he wasn't supposed to. He said that
Yes, he did.
there's a cameo in the movie, and that's a spoiler if we put it out
Yep.
there right now. So
Yep. Now, time will tell if that cameo stays.
right.
Again, there's a lot of things shifting. There's a lot of things going on, but I'm happy. I'm happy that the movie is coming out. I'm glad that the teaser trailer. I feel like the first trailer, and a lot of movies do this. Their first trailer is pretty much to let you know what the tone is going to be, and this one was like, hey, it's going to be. It feels like it's going to have heart. Like, I felt heart in the trailer
Yeah.
because it's got the family dynamic, almost in the way that Shazam 1 did. That family dynamic is what hooked me a lot in Shazam 1. And seeing the trailer and how much the family was in that entire trailer, like, they constantly revolved around his family being around, knowing the secret, participating in on the action. I enjoyed that because, in many cultures, but especially in the Latino culture, like, family is
Yeah.
so important. And
Absolutely.
I love that that is ingrained in the trailer. And I'm hyped. And the fact that they got Xolo Maradueña to play Blue Beetle,
Right.
Jamie Reyes, I was excited because when Cobra Kai started
Yeah.
and they had the rumor, they're like, hey, DC wants to make a Blue Beetle. I made a video,
Yeah.
and I remember making a video saying, if they do it, this is the guy. Joel Dueñas is the guy.
Yeah.
And then they casted him, and I was like, I'm so happy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it looks like a fun trailer. The CGI looks really good. That's the thing. That's the takeaway. If you're a gamer, there's a part where he makes a sword
Oh
with his
God.
suit, and it feels like a shout out to Final Fantasy, the Buster Sword from Cloud. So
I would not be shocked if it is 100%. I would not be
yeah,
surprised if, because she in the trailer you hear it say like, oh, I can, anything you can think of I can make. So
yeah,
I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if earlier in the movie they nod to it, so when he does it, it's
yeah.
exactly that callback.
I mean, because Jaime's a kid, he plays video games.
Yeah,
That's not a stretch of truth. So
yeah.
it'd be pretty cool if it's like I'm gonna make a Buster Sword. So um, so that's slated to come out in August of
Mhm.
2023. So
I'm
that'll
going.
that'll be the third DCU movie that comes out this year.
Mhm.
Um, the second is the Flash movie. Um, that comes out in June 16th of 2023. The first movie, we're switching gears here now. The first DCU movie that came out this year would be Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Shazam 2.
Fury of the Gods.
That's March 17th of 2023. Oh boy. Um,
Oh boy, indeed.
all right, so
I feel like when this movie dropped, there was so much controversy with it.
yeah,
It was like you almost forgot about the movie because of everything that was happening
right,
around the movie.
right. So as you folks may or may not know by now, Ricardo and I are not in the business of slamming movies.
Nope.
We can say that if it wasn't for us, or we might not have liked it as much, but we're not in the business of slamming movies, so we're not going to do that. We can, however, comment on critical acclaim or
Mhm.
fan acclaim, and critical acclaim not there, not there with Shazam 2, unfortunately,
Nope.
and
Nope.
it effectively, excuse me, it negatively affected a few things here. As of right now, this recording, the worldwide box office is 120 million right now.
Yeah.
And I want to take a peek here. Box office. Okay, that's not good because the budget is slated anywhere between 110 and 125 million, and
Yeah.
it's made 120 million worldwide. So, um, it's in trouble as far as it's just about to break even. And I mean, breaking even is okay, but this is show business. They're in it
Yeah.
to make a little bit more.
It's especially for superhero films in today's day and age. You don't want to walk away from a comic book film, superhero film, especially a sequel to a film that was massively critically praised
Right.
as much as it was. So yeah, it's not panning out too well. I mean, I'm always interested when I see such a significant difference between the critical score and the audience score. And it's interesting because again, our critics gave it a 50% and our audience score gave it 86. So there's a clear divide from audiences and critics, but for whatever reason, it's still not pulling in those box office numbers. People
Right.
like it seems that general audiences are enjoying it, but perhaps word of mouth isn't enough to get people interested. And there might be a couple of reasons. I have a couple theories on why the movie probably just didn't do as well financially. But I feel bad because I love Shazam 1. I thought Shazam 1 was a
Yeah.
great family film. And I was rooting for Shazam 2. I was like, guys, we got to root for Shazam 2. Like Shazam 1 was great. And for whatever reason, it just didn't connect critically. And at the box office, it just seemed to really struggle to find its legs, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And there could be a number of reasons. Maybe people emotionally started just pulling back once they found out about the supposed reboot coming.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Maybe there was a morale dip after Black Adam,
Hmm.
because Black Adam critically didn't do well, financially didn't do well. Who knows? There could be a number of reasons. Um, it's no fault of the cast. I mean,
No.
we had a stacked cast. The family, they came back. We had a few new actors introduced. We had Lucy Liu. We had Helen Mirren. We had there was, Rachel Ziegler, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
So there was a lot more. Jaimin Honsu had a lot more to do. So it wasn't you know for lack of trying, so to speak, but for whatever reason, didn't do as well. And let's be honest here, just with what they established in Shazam 1, it's not like Shazam 2 is going to be dark and gritty.
No, no, and
you know
that's the thing is I don't feel that Shazam 2 stepped out into an unfamiliar territory. Like it knew what it was,
Right.
and it grew on that. Like you said, I think there's a couple variables. I think the marketing was a little lackluster for this movie. I think that there was an uncertainty, not just from a studio perspective, but I think that the audience and comic book fans felt that uncertainty as well with the new DCU slate being announced. People were unsure, like, hey, is this going to fit into this new universe? Is it not? And that uncertainty, it kind of made them go, I can wait. I don't have to rush out to see this in a theater.
Right.
I'll wait for it, because it's that fear. Some people have that fear of getting invested in something and then having it taken away. And some people were just like, I feel like people just really want to play the waiting game. Again, I think the marketing could have been a lot better. I had a lot of communication with friends that were like, is Shazam 2 even coming out this month? I'm like, yeah, it's in a few weeks. And they're like, I haven't seen a single another trailer. I've only seen the first. So the marketing was a little low. And again, that could have been them trying to financially save money on the project, because again, they themselves weren't sure if this was going to be what they wanted it to be. So maybe they said, hey, you know what, we're not going to spend too much on marketing. We're going to just get the movie out there and hope that the critical success of the first movie is going to carry it enough. Obviously there was a lot of behind the scenes drama that could have played a role.
Right.
But I think there's a couple of variables. I don't blame the movie itself at all. I just think that there was quite a few things happening, because I'll speak for myself. I wasn't sure. I was like, are we going anywhere with this franchise? Are they going to continue? I wasn't sure about that. I personally was upset about the marketing. I thought they could have marketed it better. And then it was just the not knowing. I thought that the not knowing aspect of it all, made me kind of sit there and go, huh, well, I mean, I don't are we going to continue? Is this a one and done? So I think morale got hurt a little bit amongst certain people. And unfortunately it came out really close to John Wick 4, and I think that we all
Oh
knew how
yeah.
that was going to turn out.
Absolutely. So, we saw some reports here that it was released March 17th, 2023. We saw
Mhm.
a report that there's a chance it gets released on video on demand, VOD,
Yeah.
April 18th. That's just a month after. So,
Yeah.
for those of you unfamiliar, that means they open up the $20 rental window. So
Mhm.
you'll get to spend $20 to rent it, and then eventually it will head to streaming. The magic number is 45 for sometimes. Um, I mean, if it's doing really well, of course, the production companies wait
Yeah.
to release it on streaming service, because they want people to keep seeing it in the theaters, and then the VOD date will be further down the line. Oh, well, you didn't get to see it, but here, spend $20 to rent it at home, which is a very common occurrence.
Mhm.
You do it all the time,
I do it a
and
lot.
then by the time it hits streaming, then it's available for purchase on
Mhm.
VOD as well as streaming. So, um, if this April 18th date sticks, that is very fast. That's 1 month after it came out. That lets us know how they feel about how it will do box office wise. We unconfirmed, we saw another date that was even closer, April 7th. These websites are going off of what they may or may not have seen in Amazon.
Yeah.
Um, and we're not sure if it's actually going to happen. It's just what we're seeing on Amazon. They don't always hit their release dates as well.
Very true. Very
They
true.
could, many times we've seen that before, and then the movie didn't release at that time. So,
Yeah.
um, worst case scenario, 45 days from release date, it'll hit HBO Max if all of this VOD stuff happens. Um, uh, Not to belabor the point on Shazam 2, um, with critical acclaim and box office, you talked about where things are going.
Mhm.
So I wanted to touch on that here. So from here on out, we're gonna do spoilers on Shazam, and we're gonna do spoilers on the entire DCU, what we've read and what we see coming. So, um, I think anytime you tune into us for breakdowns, obviously that's going to be full spoilers, but
Yeah.
for stuff that hasn't come out yet, we read a lot. We have a lot of sources that we go to, that we know about, that we trust. We don't just go to any old clickbait site. It's
No, no, no,
people
no, no, no.
people with reliable sources. So it was reported that Gal Gadot was going to have a cameo in Shazam: Fury
Mhm.
of the Gods, and it had been reported for months, months and months and
Yes.
months, and we weren't sure. So it was kind of like, well, maybe because Henry Cavill had that Superman cameo at the end of Black Adam,
Mhm.
which unfortunately that's not going to go anywhere now. But you know,
Nowhere.
yeah, I digress. But it's like, okay, so now we're having cameos of the Trinity in the movies. Is that where we're going? Are we going to
Mhm.
have cameos? Is we already know that Ben Affleck is playing Batman and Flash, and we're going to get to Flash in a second. So it's kind of like, well, are we going to have anybody from the Trinity in Shazam: Fury of the Gods? And it looks like we did. Um, she was mentioned heavily in the movie to the
Yep.
point where Gal actually showed up at the end of the movie. And there was a controversy on that too, because we had shots of her double, and people were saying it was like a AI thing, and Sandberg had to come out and say, no guys,
See, and
yeah,
I like when directors can be open like that.
yeah,
There are sometimes when you read something, you go, maybe you shouldn't have said anything at all. But Sandberg coming out and saying, hey guys, no, we absolutely used no AI face replacements whatsoever.
right,
When you see Gal, you're seeing Gal.
yeah.
And I was like, that's all we needed to hear.
Doubles are a very common occurrence. If you
Very.
Google Avengers doubles, you'll see them standing next to their doubles
Yup.
for the Avengers
Yup.
movies.
He was
So
like, hey man, we're not doing any face swaps. None of that. It's her.
yeah,
And I was like, okay.
yeah. It was Gal, and so he shared information. Actually, he shared photos
Yeah.
of her, doing it. So, uh, it was pretty cool. She
Mhm.
actually showed up in the movie. You heard the Wonder Woman theme song.
Yep.
Um, in my opinion, everybody in the scene straightened up a little bit, even Shazam. You
Yeah. You
know,
just yeah,
because
just
that's the Trinity. That's one of the Trinity, man. That's
yeah.
Wonder Woman. That's Diana. So it got everybody excited again. It got everybody talking again. That like,
Mhm.
hey, I saw Shazam: Fury of the Gods, but how about that Wonder Woman cameo?
That Wonder
And
Woman though.
so it got people thinking. Well, with this reboot, the speculation has been we're not going to see the Trinity anymore because we already know that Henry's out. Henry Cavill is out, but so here we go with spoilers for Flash. There were reports that both Gal and Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, both filmed cameos for the
Mhm.
Flash. And so it's almost just like, well, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And is this getting nixed because James Gunn came in? Because all this happened before James Gunn came in. So
Mhm.
now it's a situation of, okay, so you kept Gal in, which you could have easily not kept her in,
Yup. Could have
but
easily taken her out.
you kept her in. So does this mean we're going to see her again in the Flash? Are we going
Mhm.
to continue seeing her after the Flash, which is, excuse me, supposed to be like a reboot?
Mhm.
Like it's almost like they're giving us little crumbs here of, are we going to see any of the Trinity moving forward?
Yeah.
It's reported that the Trinity was supposed to be in Flash, and then it was reported that Ben filmed a cameo as Batman for Aquaman, which comes out at the end of the
Mhm.
year. So the Flash opens up a lot of possibilities with the multiverse. You
Yeah.
know, um, we know that James Gunn has already stated that he's going to have a new Superman for Superman Legacy, and there's going to be a new actor to play Batman for Brave and the Bold, Damien's
Yeah.
father.
Yep.
So that doesn't leave any room for Henry Cavill as Superman for sure, because they've already announced that. But now it's just like, well, are we still going to see Batman in all these projects, Ben Affleck's
Mhm.
Batman? So please share your thoughts on, you know, the remaining Trinity members or the remaining members of Zack Snyder's Justice League, where you see things going since now that we actually saw Gal in Shazam: Fear of
Gal
the Gods.
Gal was very interesting because there was very few marketing for Shazam 2, but in one of the TV spots, they
Yeah.
included her. they just show her in the commercial. And
Yeah.
I remember going, why would you show that? That's
Right.
such a, but they were trying to, again, it seemed like they were trying to save them much on marketing. So whatever marketing they put, they wanted to make sure they got your butt to go see it in the theater. And they knew that, like, well, having Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, that should pull, right? Let's put it in the commercial. But it's great seeing her. We've talked about it time and time again. She is Wonder Woman. She's got it down. You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain actors who have their roles down, and I love Gal Gadot as Diana and as Wonder Woman. Seeing her was great. Like you said, everyone kind of straightens up in the scene. And
Yeah.
what I love about that is because that you have Billy, who's playing the Shazam character, and he's an 18, he's a 17, 18-year-old kid. I think he's 17. He's 17-year-old kid.
Right.
And they're essentially superheroes. They're superheroes, they're young, but they still see themselves not in the same league as the Trinity. And it's great because it's a reminder of just how special the Trinity really is. So in those moments when you see everybody straighten up, when you see her, it feels right. It feels like that's what I would do. Like if I like
Yeah.
in a fictional world, I'd be like, oh my God, that's Wonder Woman. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like the way they did that. It was pure. It was somewhat adorable how he's trying to like talk to her and whatnot. I'm like, hey, how you
Right.
doing? But it was great to see her. And again, I think the biggest takeaway is that if they wanted to, they could have absolutely removed that scene. They could have
Right.
absolutely done something different. They had time. James was coming in. I think James announced the reboot months before this movie was even released. So
Correct.
that's why people were a little uncertain about the movie. So if he wanted to, he could have been like, hey, we're not really sure where we're going to go with Gal in the universe. So do us a favor. Let's trim that scene. Let's get her out. Let's rework it.
Right.
Just because we're not sure, cards subject to change, right? So it's like, we're not sure yet. So let's
Mm.
not put in, but they left her in. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, so Henry Cavill is out.
Right.
Ben Affleck seems to be out. That seems to be the main
Right.
course, is that Ben is out. Regardless of how he feels and what he's saying right now about like, oh, the Flash is great. It looks like Ben is out.
Right.
But it seems to me, based off what we're seeing, is that they're at least trying to keep Gal as Wonder Woman.
Right.
That they want to keep her. They're doing a reboot with Flash. We don't know how strong of a reboot it's going to be. We don't know if they're going to use it to just reboot certain characters,
Right.
like two members of the Trinity and Batman and Superman. We know that they're working on the Amazon show. So that way
Right.
they can go to Themyscira, and maybe they're going to use that show to kind of show Themyscira in a different light. So
Right.
that way, when we get to this new rebooted Wonder Woman, but still having Gal, it's different story beats in this
Right.
version. I'm curious, but I was in the camp earlier before Shazam 2 that I thought Gal was also going to be. I thought the entire Trinity was getting recast.
Right.
After Shazam 2, I kind of changed my tune a little bit and
Right.
said, well, wait a minute. Again, they could have cut it. I think they're trying to work with her. I think they do want her to remain on board,
Right.
which is great because I love her. Even if they say, hey, she's just going to do one more, cool. She gets to have her final film as Wonder Woman and go out on her terms. But I would say that I'm more optimistic now about her staying than I was prior, because I feel like even Gal herself, if Gal was even uncertain about her future, she could have easily been like, I don't want to do it. She could have been like,
Right.
I don't know if I want to do this cameo because I'm not sure I'm gonna fit in. Like, she could have, been like, I don't know. Gal's not afraid to put her foot down. We know this.
Correct.
So if she felt in any way that this wasn't going to help her moving forward, I don't think she would have done it, and she did it. So I'm more optimistic moving forward with Gal as Wonder Woman. I'm curious to see how they would work the Trinity with her and two new characters
Right.
and whatnot. And there's a big possibility that Wonder Woman films moving forward might feel a little bit more tight, like they're kind of like
Right.
their own thing, their
Right.
own bubble,
And
to allow her to do that.
to your point, so, James Gunn made it a point to announce that, okay, we will have a new Superman, we will have a new Batman.
Hmm.
But then he said, we'll have an Amazon show, but he never said we were going to have a new Wonder Woman, So who's to
Hmm.
say that we might not get a flash forward with Gal playing Wonder Woman because this is a prequel, it's
Hmm.
set way before Diana was born. So who's to say she won't make an appearance, as present day,
Hmm.
moving back. And if we just go based upon the past two movies, while it won't be Henry moving forward, Superman showed up at the end of Black Adam. Wonder Woman showed up at the end of Shazam: Fury of the Gods. We might, instead of getting a proper Trinity or Justice League movie, because we're far away from that,
Yeah.
maybe we'll start seeing characters of the Justice League
Mhm.
in other movies. You know, we're going to start seeing more of that cohesive universe that they've been trying to get for years, you know, because clearly we're in no position to have a Trinity movie or Justice League movie anytime
Not
soon,
not
because
anytime
we're
soon.
introducing new people and stuff like that. But in the meantime, we can have cameos. So whatever cameos happen on top of the Ben Affleck confirmed appearance in Flash, I'm all for it. I mean, and now it's a situation of, well, will he show up again at Aquaman at the end of the
Yeah.
year? You know, will Jason
I'm
Momoa
curious.
continue it? Will Jason Momoa continue as Aquaman? We don't know. So
I have I have no idea. Again, even Jason's like, I don't see how we don't do an Aquaman 3. But
right,
again, things change. And,
correct,
again, is that scene in Aquaman cut with Ben Affleck? Are they
correct,
gonna keep it? Like, I don't know. Again, the funny thing is that when Ben has openly talked about the Flash movie, he's had nothing but positive things to say. And I'd like to believe he's being genuine. He said he felt like he did a really good job playing the role. He started explaining certain sequences that are pretty spoiler heavy, and
yeah,
you know what I mean. I was like, that's kind of spoiler heavy, and I'm like, is he saying this because he's already out, so he's not really worried about it? Is he saying it? And I people were speculating that he said it so that way it would kind of put the studio in a corner that they can't cut it, and I was like, I don't know. Ben's a smart guy. Maybe there's some play there. I don't know.
right,
But with him, uncertain still. But with Gal, again, I'm a little bit more optimistic that maybe. And like you said, we're going to Themyscira, so who's to say like they'll do that show and then we lean back into this? Who's to say she doesn't go back to Themyscira to have a story, and that way we don't have to worry about the Trinity being involved, their
right,
cameos and whatnot. But yeah, we're far away from any Trinity. We're doing a new Superman kind of origin story in a sense.
right.
So it's like it's gonna be a while. We might, man, it sounds so crazy. We might not get a Trinity for a very, very long time.
Right, which is why I'm kind of rooting for them all to share the screen
Yeah.
one last time in
Just
Flash.
one.
I
Just give us that
I
one
doubt
time.
it, but we've heard it was shot. You know, it's
Yes.
rumored. We heard it was shot. So, um, we shall see. So, we're gonna move on to our closing section here. And by the way, Superman Legacy is scheduled for July of 2025. And
Yeah.
that's supposed to be the first proper James Gunn DCU movie. And anything
Mhm.
that releases up until then, they're gonna find a way to maybe tie things into the new DCU. We don't know yet. So,
Yeah.
um, if you could read that quote, um, and I'll preface it with this. Lately, there's been an online discourse about superhero fatigue,
Mhm.
and it's been because of either critical acclaim, fan acclaim for movies, or the box office not being as, as high as it used to be. And people have been saying it for a while. And I like hard numbers. I like
Mhm.
showing, well, you can say something, but people will tell you with their money. They
Yeah.
will tell you with what they're spending their money on. So before we get to that, if you could read this James Gunn quote, it's from
Yep.
Rolling Stone, and it's going to start with the I think there is.
Yeah. So our quote from Mr. James Gunn is, I think there is such a thing as superhero fatigue. I think it doesn't have to do with superheroes. It has to do with the kind of stories that get to be told. And if you lose your eye on the ball, which is character, we love Superman, we love Batman, we love Iron Man because they're these incredible characters that we have in our hearts. And if it becomes just a bunch of nonsense on screen, it gets really boring. But I get fatigued by most spectacle films by the grind of not having an emotionally grounded story. It doesn't have anything to do with whether they're superhero movies or not. If you don't have a story at the base of it, just watching things bash each other, no matter how clever those bashing moments are, no matter how clever the designs of the VFX are, it just gets fatiguing. And I think that's very, very, very real.
Right. He goes on to say that he believes there was fatigue after Avengers Endgame,
Hmm.
which made $2 billion plus. So, um, and then Marvel Studios did such a great job building that up to be that kind of event that would make that
Hmm.
kind of money, record breaking numbers and such. So, and then whatever. we can go on and on about Warner Brothers Discovery now, and what they did with the DC properties and such. But um, it's interesting he says that. And to me, I wanted to look at the box office. So we're going to do a screen share here. And I thought it was interesting, though, before I did that, isn't that interesting that we have the head of DC Studios now in charge of creative saying, yes, there is superhero fatigue. Why would, you know, it's such an interesting thing to kind of acknowledge it, even though you want
Mhm.
people to come see your excuse me, your projects, but you put it
Yeah.
out there because it needs to have substance. That's why there's
Yeah.
a fatigue. It's not that the genre is fatiguing. It's because we're not getting things of substance.
Yeah, I've actually had this conversation with numerous people as well, where I'm like, it almost feels like there's a formula fatigue, that there's a lot of fatigue with certain not genres, but certain formulas. They're tired of seeing probably the same beats hit over and over in certain comic book films, and they're feeling some type of way, and they want to feel something different, which is why variety is so important, which is why, we've always been a proponent for variety, especially in comic book films. We want them to feel different. We want them to look different. We want them to be reflective of the directors and the writers that are working on them. And sometimes you have these movies where if you put, not in every case, but there are movies that you could put together and go, wow, these feel almost identical in tone, in beat, in execution, in story. Like, it's just, and I feel like sometimes that could fatigue people out. But it is a move for him to say, like, as the guy running DCU, like, yes, superhero fatigue exists. This is how he views it. And it's I don't know if it's risky. I don't know if I would say it's risky, but it's definitely interesting that he's put out it's a thing. It is a thing.
Right.
And he explains how, like, he would go around and say, hey, like, it's got to have some levity, it's got to be grounded with emotion and whatnot, which is a fair and valid point. But sometimes when you have fatigue, people won't even go watch the movie to find those differences. Like, it's like, if people are really fatigued, they're just like, oh, if I've seen them one, I've seen them all. And sometimes they just have to take the risk and go see it and be like, oh, that was actually different. I
Right.
appreciated it for being different.
So let's take a look at the worldwide box office right now, because um all right, folks, I'm going to give you a second to think about what you think the number one box office movie is. It doesn't count if it was released in 2022.
Mhm.
So it had to have been
I, I
released in
I didn't
2023.
know. When I read what it was, I was like, really? I
Right.
didn't know. I just didn't know.
So here we go. I'm going to physically screen share here. I'm going to scroll down. There we go. So as of right now, what you're reading here is the 2023 worldwide box office. As of right now, the number one movie of the year is a superhero movie.
There it is.
It's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's at 473
Mhm.
million. So
Yep.
to give some context, Creed 3 is number 2, and that's
Yes.
at 260 million. We have John Wick Chapter 4
Oh,
in
yeah.
in the span of under 2 weeks. I want to say as of this recording, like 10, maybe 11 days, 247 million worldwide. It's going to make some money there, that's for sure. And
John Wick is gonna keep climbing.
absolutely. So, and just to look at other things here, I'm not going to go through them all, but we have Scream 6,
Mhm.
148 million. We have Shazam: Fear of the Gods. It's still in the top 10 though, and
Yep.
that's
Yep.
120 million. We have Cocaine Bear, loosely based on a true story, 82 million. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves just came out, so that's 72 million. We have Titanic 25-year anniversary, 61 million. So we have a couple overseas movies and such, but 2 out of the top 10 are
Yeah.
superhero movies. 2 out of the top 6 are superhero movies. We have a couple
Yep.
franchise films. They do well. That's on course. Creed
Yeah.
3, Scream 6, and such. John Wick 4 at number 3 already. That's pretty awesome.
Bro, John Wick, I'm making a prediction. I think
John Wick
John Wick
Chapter
is gonna
4.
I think John Wick will surpass Ant-Man and the Wasp at some point. But like you
Yeah,
said, look at it. Like, in the top 10, you had 2 superhero films in the worldwide box office for 2023.
right. Absolutely. So I'm gonna leave this up for one more minute here. Based upon what you're seeing here, like it's hard to say the superhero fatigue when the 2 superhero movies were not critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
but yet financially people are still paying to go see it. So,
Exactly, like, they're
you
still
know,
going. They're still going
right,
to see these movies, Could they have made more money? Absolutely, in the world of comic book films and whatnot, I said, but the reality still stands that those movies are in the top 10 for the box office, and there have been plenty of movies that have come out, and they are in the top 10.
right.
Number
And
look, Ant-Man and the Wasp is Quantumania it's number 1. It's number 1 at the box office.
absolutely. And we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 scheduled for May of 2023. So that's going to be the
That's gonna
next,
make that's gonna make money. That
that's
it's James Gunn last Guardian of the Galaxy film. The trailers are highly hinting at an emotional goodbye. That movie is gonna make money. So I don't think any fatigue is gonna hurt that movie whatsoever.
absolutely. We have the Marvels that's scheduled for November. And I'm trying to see if there's any other movies here. It's a lot of Disney Plus stuff, so that doesn't count. Yeah, so that's
When
about
when
it.
does when does the Flash drop?
The
When is that?
Flash, yeah, I can tell you that. The
Is
Flash,
that this summer?
that's this year. That's in a few months.
Okay.
It's June
Okay.
6th, June 16th of 2023.
Okay.
So that's it for the little box office thing that I wanted to share there. So, I mean, based upon the critical acclaim, I would say that there is a little bit of fatigue because,
Mhm.
usually we don't get that. I mean, for a Marvel Studios movie to not get critical acclaim, it doesn't happen too often,
No,
So
that is very, very, very rare. Very
so
rare.
so we'll see. The Guardians movies both were critically acclaimed, so Gunn has a style that caters to the masses. He
Mhm.
knows how to cater to the masses. The Suicide Squad, while we had certain feelings about it,
Critical success, man.
and public success,
Yep,
fans
that
like a certain
very
thing,
well liked, very well
so
liked.
um that's a discussion for another day. We we kind of believe the MCU changed the way the public sees superhero movies. And
Yeah,
so now much the public, when they go to see a superhero movie, they want the MCU. They want that.
they want that feel, that
Right, and we're
formula,
not saying
that
everybody. We're not saying
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
We just gotta go based upon how much money is being spent,
Yep, yep.
And a lot of people, these aren't hardcore, um, I don't wanna say hardcore fans because that sounds like gatekeeping, but, um, they don't care. They just want to see these movies, they
Mhm,
wanna have a good time. They're not all hardcore comic book readers, people
mhm.
that grew up reading comic books, they're people that just enjoy superhero movies, and they wanna go see them. So,
Yep.
um so based upon the box office, I don't think there's a fatigue, but overall, based upon online discourse, I would say there is.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a difference. Like we've
Right,
seen plenty of online discourse when talking about these films and whatnot, but like you said, there are still plenty of people who are going out to see these movies. Whether they could be better or not is out of the question, but lots of people are still to go see them. A lot of the times, like you said, because it's just a comic book film and a superhero movie. It's like,
right,
hey, they got that new superhero comic movie out. Which one is it again? Like they might not even be entirely sure, and you're like, oh, it's the new Ant-Man. They're like, oh, what's that one about? Oh, they introduced. Okay, yeah, let's go see that. You know what I mean? Because
right.
it's a comic book film, it's a superhero film, and it's
People are
whether
taking
it's
their
the MCU or DC.
right. People are going on dates. People are taking their families. People are taking their kids.
Yep, yep.
It's
That's a huge dynamic when going to family friendly films and whatnot. And the comic book films took advantage of that from a certain studio. They were like, "Yo, let's get families out there. Let's do this. Let's do that," and it worked for a very long time. Critic wise, like you said, maybe the critics are just going, "Okay, like we've seen it." That might be it. Like they might be like, "Hey, we've seen this before." Because like even if you love something, a certain meal, if you have it every day, at some point you're like, you know what, I think I kind of
right,
want something different. And I think that might be uh what's happening. I don't think necessarily it's going to hurt the box office of these movies per
right,
se, but I do think people are walking away going, I could have had something different and I didn't get that. So, again, I didn't expect Ant-Man 3 introducing Kang to do as critically negative as it did. I did
right,
not expect that at all. So when it happened, I was like, "Oh, that's rough." And
right,
then Shazam 2, I didn't expect that at all either. I was like, Shazam
right.
1 was in the upper
Because it was a
90s?
family movie, right? And then this is a family movie, and
Yeah.
then it was just like, oh, nope, and we didn't get there.
Yeah.
So, and then with Marvel Studios, they're kind of doing a thing where they're using, we talked about this, movie actors for shows on their Disney
Mhm.
Plus series, and not everybody's watching them. Let's be clear about that.
Yep.
But for the people that are, they're getting connected. They're getting to stay connected to the MCU, and you don't have to wait like X amount of months till the next movie comes out. You have to
Mhm.
wait like a few weeks until the
Yeah.
next MCU project comes out because of Disney Plus.
Yep.
So that's aiding in the fatigue. Uh, DC Studios doesn't really have that issue yet, but we'll see what happens. When
Yeah. Yeah.
we have Penguin, and then what if Matt Reeves gets the okay to do more projects that won't necessarily be movies? We'll see. We'll see if James Gunn's DCU. He says he wants to have TV shows that link the
Yeah.
movies and use the actors, and animated projects that link all the actors together. So we shall see. This has been going on for a while. People are still paying,
Yeah.
but there's a hint of, hmm, there's a
Yeah.
there's a hint of, oh, I think I want something else. Like if you would have told me Creed was the second best selling movie of the year right now, I wouldn't have thought that. you
Yeah,
know
and I think we're like you said, we're getting to a point where there's so much content, right? Especially
right.
with the Marvel shows and the movies. You always have time. And like I loved Loki. The show Loki, I was like, "Oh, this
shout,
is great."
shout out to Tom Hiddleston, man,
Oh
great
my
actor, such
god,
a great
dude.
actor.
Loki might be my favorite MCU show, but then they came out with WandaVision, they had Falcon
Right,
and the Winter Soldier. They've had a few shows, She-Hulk. So
right.
like
Hawkeye.
they've all Hawkeye, they've also made it. Kevin Feige has made it known as like, hey, you kind of have to watch the shows as well. So
Right.
that's a lot. That's a lot to ask of people sometimes. And I know that sometimes people get a little burnt out, a little tired. I've had friends that have asked me, like, hey, I want to watch this movie. What do I have to watch? And I'm like, oh man, you got to watch at least 5 films before you get
Right.
to that. And like they say, oh really? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, just pay. And they're like, never mind. And so sometimes that plays a role too. You also have a situation, and this happens in many different avenues, not just movies. We have to remember that, like, especially when it comes like to the MCU, even DC, but the MCU has been going for a long time. There were people who started watching the MCU when they were legitimately kids,
Right.
and now they're adults. And sometimes you have those people, I don't want to say age out, but they kind of go, okay, like I kind of want to see something different. Can we do something different? So
Right.
now they have Creed 3 or Ant-Man, and they're like, oh, I want to see Creed 3. Like I want to go see that. So it's interesting to see the dynamic of fans as they age, as they get older, and see how that plays into reception, box office, if you will, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm happy too, and I don't want the downfall of comic book films. I don't want that at
No.
all. I love comic book films,
They're
but
fun.
there is something in me that is also genuinely happy that other movies are being seen again. Again, Creed being
Yeah.
2 is awesome. I
Right.
love Michael B. Jordan directing his first
Yeah.
film as a director and getting a great critical response and box office. I applaud that. I'm happy. Keanu Reeves at 58 years old is
Oh
doing a
my
franchise that
goodness.
is making great money. I love that. So I don't want a superhero fatigue to knock comic book films out, but I'm happy that people are at least going, okay, well, let's go check this out,
Right.
and we can watch both, but let's make sure we see all of it. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, didn't mean to go off there for a little bit, but we had to address it because James Gunn said it.
He
So,
brought up the fatigue.
you
I
know,
think it's one of those situations where like he wanted to get in front of it because
right.
if for whatever like obviously because nobody wanted Shazam 2 to fail. Nobody wanted that. No, nobody roots for a movie
Oh,
to not do well. If you love movies,
right.
if you're one of those
There,
fans, it's like I hope
right.
this movie
There is a
bombs.
fan
Like
base that does that, but not the people that
yes.
love
No, no,
movies,
no. If
right?
you love movies, you want every movie you watch to succeed. You
Correct.
want all the actors to feel like their hard work paid off. You want the directors to be happy. I want everyone. I know I don't want to ever walk away from a film and going, I'm glad it stunk. I don't want
Right.
that. Okay. So I think that, with Shazam 2 happening and James kind of being in the middle, almost like a middleman, like, well, Shazam going to stay in the universe? Is this and that? Do you think fatigue had anything to do with it? He's like, all right, let's talk about it. All right, I'll get in front of it. Yeah, I think there's fatigue. I think this is why there's fatigue, and here's how I'm going to try to combat that fatigue. But we'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So, alrighty. So we got through our discussion here on quarter one for DC Studios in 2023. We'll see how you guys respond. We'll do this again in June after we see The Flash and
Yeah.
then that's 3 months from now. So
Mhm.
a lot more things could happen with the DCU from now until then. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, technically speaking, we could do something every week if we wanted to, but we have
Oh
way
my
too
god.
many movie breakdowns to get through and other things
Yeah.
that we enjoy talking about. So absolutely. All righty. Well, folks, we are going to start wrapping up here. I wanted to thank you for, excuse me, we wanted to thank you for watching and listening. And if you could please give us a like, share, and subscribe at the Panel Bros on YouTube, we would appreciate it. Once again, for those of you that watch but do not subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. That will help us expand our reach. We appreciate your support, but this would help us even more. Also, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments below about how you felt about our discussion concerning Q1 for DC Studios. And, let us know, how do you feel about the projects we discussed? How do you feel about where DC Studios is going in the future? We had a little side conversation about superhero fatigue. Let us know how you felt about that as well. Much appreciated. So, folks, for Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying thank you for coming to the panel.